Now that we have a decent definition with some content, we have some numbers that eventually help us to define some points, which eventually help us to position some curves that eventually result in a loft, which is a series of surfaces joined together. Great. Now let's try to do something with that in Rhino. Well, hold on a moment. If I select or try to select this thing in Rhino, I can't actually select it. I see it, but it's more of a preview. And that's how really Grasshopper works. Everything that you're doing here is a preview of what you do and have in Rhino. When you want to eventually use this object in Rhino and apply other Rhino commands or maybe render it or export it to another application, you have to do something that's called baking. You have to bake the geometry into the Rhino file. The way we do that is we select the geometry in the definition. In this case, we're going to select the loft component, which is generating our surfaces. We're going to right click in the middle and we're going to look for this fried egg icon that says bake. I'm going to get a little panel. It's going to give you an option to change the layer or to tell it which layer it's going to land in. For now, I'll just keep it a default. There's some other options. We're just going to say OK for now. And that object gets created in Rhino, gets created in whichever layer is the current layer. If I fold up Grasshopper here, we see that the current layer is default, and that is where this object has landed. If I change the current layer, for example, to layer 1, I bring this back, I bake. Now the object has landed on layer 1, and you can tell that by the color of the object. So again, I can bake by right-clicking on the component, saying bake, deciding which layer I want it to go into, and say OK. I can also select the object, right-click on the canvas, and I get a similar set of tools. I can say bake from here, and it's just going to land in whichever layer is current. Why are there two methods to do this? Imagine that we wanted to actually bake the surfaces and the curves. Well, I can select multiple objects, and in order to bake them all at the same time, I need to right-click actually on the canvas, not in the middle of any of the components. Right-click on the canvas, and I say bake, and now I have not only the surfaces, but I also have the curves. This way, I can start to create different options from my Grasshopper definition, try different parameters, twist this thing a little bit more, and have a bunch of different things coming out from the definition. You'll notice though that if you change the parameters, the things that you bake, they're not going to update. And that's really how Grasshopper works. Eventually you bake things, those things become geometry for fabrication or maybe for rendering or for something else. But once they're baked, they are disassociated from the Grasshopper definition.